Why high income doesn't guarantee long-term wealth, and what actually does. This video is an analytical breakdown based on publicly available information, exploring financial patterns that shape long-term wealth. What if earning more money doesn't actually make you financially secure? Why do some people earn millions and still struggle to build lasting wealth, while others with far less income quietly build financial stability that lasts for decades? Because history reveals something most people misunderstand. High income is not the same as wealth. And in many cases, it can create the illusion of financial success while quietly increasing financial risk. Across industries, from entertainment to business, we see the same pattern repeated again and again. Sudden success, rapid income growth, lifestyle expansion, and over time, financial instability. Not because of a lack of opportunity, but because of how that income is managed. In this documentary, we break down the hidden difference between income and real wealth, the psychological patterns that lead to financial instability, the habits that quietly destroy long-term wealth, and most importantly, what actually creates financial stability that lasts. Because wealth is not just about how much you earn. It is about how money flows, how it is managed, and how it is sustained over time. To understand why high income alone is not enough, we first need to understand how wealth actually works. Let's begin. Pattern number 1. Income is not wealth, the illusion of financial success. The first and most misunderstood concept in personal finance is this: income is not wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep. And more importantly, what continues to grow even when you stop earning. At a glance, high income looks like financial success, large paychecks, luxury lifestyles, public visibility. But beneath the surface, income can be temporary, while wealth is structural. Many high earners experience what appears to be financial growth, but in reality, they are operating on cash flow, not wealth. Money comes in, money goes out, and over time, very little is retained. Take the example of Mike Tyson. At the height of his career, Tyson earned hundreds of millions of dollars through boxing, endorsements, and global recognition. From an income perspective, he was one of the highest paid athletes of his era. But as widely reported, his financial structure did not match the scale of his earnings. Large expenses, rapid lifestyle expansion, and limited long-term financial systems meant that despite extraordinary income, long-term wealth became difficult to sustain. This pattern is not unique. It reflects a broader principle. High income without financial structure creates the illusion of wealth, not the reality of it. Wealth behaves differently from income. Income requires continuous effort. Wealth, when properly structured, can generate income on its own. This is the difference between earning money versus owning assets. Assets such as investments, businesses, or intellectual property create financial stability beyond active work. Without them, even high earners remain financially dependent on their next paycheck. A similar pattern has been discussed in the music industry with artists like MC Hammer. During his peak, Hammer generated massive revenue through music sales, tours, and global popularity. But the financial structure surrounding that income, including high expenses and large operational costs, made it difficult to sustain once earnings declined. Again, the issue was not income. It was how that income was managed and retained. Core lesson: the lesson here is as simple, but often overlooked. Earning more money does not automatically create financial security. Without systems that convert income into assets, wealth does not accumulate. It circulates. For you, the takeaway is clear. If income increases, structure must increase with it. Because financial stability is not built on how much you make. It is built on how much you keep, how you manage it, and how effectively you make it work for you. And this leads to the next critical pattern. Because even when people begin to earn more, their spending habits often evolve even faster. Pattern number 3, the illusion of stability when peak income feels permanent. At the height of financial success, something subtle begins to happen. Income doesn't just increase, it starts to feel permanent. Opportunities are everywhere, projects are coming in, demand is high. And for a moment it can feel like this level of success will last indefinitely. The psychological illusion, but this is where perception and reality begin to diverge. Because in most industries, especially entertainment, income is not linear. It is cyclical. There are peaks and there are transitions. The problem is not the peak. The problem is how decisions are made during the peak. When people believe income will continue at the same level, they begin to build their lives around that assumption. Long-term expenses increase, financial commitments expand, risk tolerance rises. All based on a version of the future that may not exist. Case study reinforcement this pattern has been widely observed in professional sports, including the career of Allen Iverson. During his time in the NBA, Iverson earned substantial income through contracts and endorsements, becoming one of the most recognized athletes of his era. At the peak of his career, income levels were extremely high and consistent. But like many professional athletes, his earning window was limited. And as widely reported, financial challenges emerged later, not because of a lack of earnings, but because long-term financial planning did not fully align with the reality of a shorter career lifespan. This highlights a key truth. Peak income often creates long-term decisions based on short-term reality. The structural risk, the illusion of stability leads to a dangerous financial mismatch. Short-term income paired with long-term obligations, homes, investments made too aggressively, lifestyle commitments, all built on the assumption that income will remain high. When that assumption changes, pressure begins. Second insight, identity and momentum. There is also a psychological layer. Success creates momentum, and momentum creates confidence. That confidence can sometimes lead to overestimating how long opportunities will last. Because when everything is working, it's hard to imagine it slowing down. Core lesson, the lesson here is critical. Peak income should never be treated as permanent income. Because wealth is not built on the highest point of earnings, it is built on realistic, sustainable expectations. For viewers, this becomes a powerful principle. When income increases, plan as if it might decrease. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. Because financial stability comes from preparing for change, not assuming consistency. And even when income is high and expectations are managed, there is another force that can quietly influence financial decisions. Pattern number 4. The social pressure effect. When environment shapes financial decisions are rarely made in isolation. They are shaped by environment, by expectations, and by the people surrounding you. As income rises, so does visibility. And with visibility comes a new kind of pressure, not always direct, not always spoken, but constantly present. The nature of social pressure in high-income environments, especially entertainment, there is often an unspoken standard. Success must be visible. It must be demonstrated through lifestyle, through appearance, through access. Over time, this creates a feedback loop. What others are doing influences what feels normal. And what feels normal begins to influence decisions. Case study reinforcement this pattern has been discussed in various industries, including music, where artists like Tony Braxton have openly spoken about the financial realities behind public success. Despite achieving major commercial success, the expectations surrounding career, image, and industry standards created financial pressures that were not always visible from the outside. Her experience highlights an important truth. Public success does not always reflect private financial stability. The entourage layer. Social pressure is not limited to public expectations. It also exists within personal circles. As income increases, so can financial responsibility toward others. Family expectations, support systems, expanded teams. In some cases, these evolve into long-term financial obligations. Without clear boundaries, these commitments can grow beyond what is sustainable, the hidden cost of influence. The most important aspect of social pressure is that it often feels justified. Helping others, maintaining a certain standard, keeping up with industry expectations. Individually, each decision may seem reasonable, but collectively, they can reshape financial behavior. Core lesson. The lesson is not to avoid success or to withdraw from relationships. It is to understand that environment influences spending more than income does. And without awareness, external expectations can quietly override financial strategy. Viewer application. For viewers, the takeaway is powerful. As financial opportunities grow, so should boundaries. Clear decisions about what to support, what to sustain, and what to prioritize. Because long-term wealth requires not just financial discipline, but environmental awareness. And even with controlled spending, managed expectations, and strong awareness, there is one final factor that determines whether wealth lasts. Not external, but structural. Pattern number 5. The structure gap. Why systems determine whether wealth lasts. If there is one factor that consistently separates temporary income from lasting wealth, it is structure. Not talent, not opportunity, not even income, but the systems that manage money after it is earned. What is financial structure? Financial structure is not complicated, but it is essential. It includes budgeting systems, investment strategies, professional financial management, long-term planning. These systems determine whether money is preserved or gradually disappears. Without structure, money behaves unpredictably. It flows in, but it also flows out, often faster than expected. Case study reinforcement. This principle can be seen in contrast across many careers, including the long-term financial evolution of Jay-Z. While he began as a recording artist, his financial trajectory expanded beyond performance. Through business ventures, investments, and ownership structures, his income was transformed into long-term assets. This shift from earning to structuring is what defines sustainable wealth. The key difference there is a fundamental difference between people who earn money and people who build systems around money. The first group depends on continued income. The second group creates financial stability that can exist independently of active work. The structure gap. Explained. The structure gap happens when income increases, but systems do not. More money enters the equation, but the way it is managed remains unchanged. This creates a fragile financial environment because without structure, growth cannot be sustained. Core lesson. The lesson is clear. Wealth is not maintained by income. It is maintained by structure. And without it, even the highest earnings can become temporary. Viewer application. For viewers, this becomes the most important takeaway of all. As income grows, systems must grow with it. Not later, not eventually, but immediately. Because financial stability is built on planning discipline and intentional structure, and when we step back and look across history, from entertainment to business, from sudden success to long-term stability, a clear pattern begins to emerge. When we step back and examine the history of wealth across industries, a clear pattern begins to emerge. Different people, different careers, different levels of success, but often the same financial outcomes. Those who sustain wealth over time tend to follow a consistent path. They build financial teams that provide structure and oversight. They diversify income, reducing dependence on a single source. They maintain spending discipline, even as income grows. And most importantly, they plan for change, understanding that high income is rarely permanent. On the other hand, when these elements are missing, a different pattern appears. A high income, rapid expansion, limited structure, and eventually financial pressure. History teaches us something simple, but often overlooked. Wealth in itself is not fragile, but the way it is managed can make it fragile. So perhaps the question is not, why do people earn so much and still lose it? A better question might be, what actually allows wealth to last? Because fame creates opportunity. Income creates possibility. But longevity requires something deeper. It requires discipline when spending feels easy, awareness when success feels permanent, and structure when money begins to grow. Because in the end, financial success is not defined by how much money passes through your hands, but by how much remains, how it is managed, and how long it can sustain you. The real challenge is not making money, it is making it last. If you enjoy thoughtful documentaries about fame, money, and human behavior, subscribe to Celebrity Unscreened. Like this video and share it with someone who values long-term success. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive. Because here, we don't just study success, we study what makes it sustainable.